Welcome to another edition of the Value My Vote one-on-one with the candidates. And we're here with none other than the mayoral candidate, Mr. Jody T. Landis. How you doing, sir?
Nice to be here with you, son.
Oh, absolutely. It's always a pleasure. Just real quick, we're going to get into a lot of issues that the voters have said are very critical and vital that they're going to be focused on this year. See where you stand on those. And we want to give you a little overview in this 10-minute interview regarding who you are and why you're running for mayor. First, for the viewers, let them know you are a former city councilman, 8 years, which is 2 terms, and you left that about 27 yeyears ago.
21 years ago, I went out of the council. I ran for controller citywide.
And to get into it, you have you have a lot of news coverage from back then that I've been searching on your website that they can go look at of how much of an activist type of councilman you were then. And in '84, I always bring this up to people. You said then that you would like to run citywide, and outside of that comptroller's race, 20 years later, 2 decades later, we're here.
Right.
Why are you running to be the next mayor of the city of Baltimore?
Because I'm not really satisfied with what I see happening in the city. I've been very frustrated with the lack of progress in the city, loss of population, increase in the number of vacant properties. I think that our policies with respect to how we're going to bring development into the city are somewhat misguided. And when I drive around the city and I look at 47,000 vacant housing units, it saddens me because I think we can do better.
Okay, and with your expertise, you're just leaving, but you're still the executive vice president of the Greater Baltimore Board of Realtors.
I'll be leaving the Board of Realtors. I've been here 13 years, and I'll be leaving in the middle of June to devote full time to the mayor's campaign. You
brought up the issue previously about the property taxes. Yeah. Obviously, Baltimore has the highest in the state. Quickly, I know it's a lot then in depth that we'll have to go to your website and see, but what would you do to change that as mayor of the city of Baltimore?
I do have information on my website, which is landersformayor.com. Real quickly, what we need to do is change the whole paradigm. Right now, if you own a property and you fix it up, your tax liability goes up. We don't really penalize anyone for letting their property deteriorate. And I'd like to shift that around. So I'd like to say if you maintain your property, you're going to enjoy a lower tax rate. And if you don't maintain your property, you're going to see your tax rate go up. Your assessment may go down, but your tax rate will go up because I think that'll put an incentive on people to fix their property up or to sell the property to somebody who will fix the property up and put it back into productive use.
Speaking of taxes, we are highly taxed in the city and the state. Obviously, the governor just signed the alcohol tax. The gas tax is being proposed. Two-part question. And obviously, I had a bill, Cavalier phone bill, $24.99 for the service, but with the taxes incurred, federal, state, and local, it was another $25. So it was equal as the amount of this actual service. One, the mayor, Stephanie Rawlins Blake, did support during session a gas tax. Would you have supported the same tax, and what would you do to kind of look at the way city residents are taxed and tackle that issue?
I think we have to look at the total tax burden, not just the property tax, but the total tax burden. And you bring up the cell phone or the telephone tax. It's very interesting because under the O'Malley administration, they first instituted this additional surcharge on phone lines, both landlines and cell phones. And that tax is actually subject to the state sales tax. So in addition to paying $4 a month per line, we also pay the state 24 cents on top of the $4 that we pay each month for the phone lines. I don't think that makes any sense. I think we need to, and I understand that was done sort of out of desperation, but I think we need to look at the total tax burden, and we need to be careful not to penalize city residents just because they happen to be city residents. On the gas tax, I think we do need an increase in the gas tax. I think a lot of business leaders have been supporting an increase in the gas tax. If you drive around Baltimore in particular, and anywhere through the state, you can see our roads and infrastructure are in poor condition. Part of that's been brought on by the the ICC and the need for funding that, but we really do need an adjustment. The other thing is, as the price of gas has gone up, consumption has gone down. You've also had improvements in the mileage rating for vehicles. And the gas tax is a fixed fee on the purchase of gas. So as both of these things have happened, the amount of money coming into the state to maintain roads and put into public transportation has gone down. So at some point we're going to have to tackle that problem. And I think it's critical for the city, because when you look at our transportation needs, we need jobs. So we either need to have jobs located in the city, or we need to be able to get people to where the jobs are. And we don't have a very good transportation system to do that.
And speaking of those fees, the system, the water system, is aged in Baltimore. Fees are increasing, I think 9% this year in Baltimore City, but people are losing their homes behind it. How would you tackle the foreclosure problem that we're having when people are losing their homes valued at sometimes $50,000, $100,000 for only a $200, $300 water bill?
I think we need to look at the whole water bill system and the utility system in the city and make some decisions about whether or not it's fair to all of the ratepayers. It's not just city residents, it's county residents too, and look at whether or not there's a better way of doing this. You know, one of my proposals is to form a land bank in Baltimore City. The land bank would be a way of reforming the tax sale process, and I think that's what you're getting at too. What happens now, if you don't pay a property tax bill, or a water bill rather, your property can go on to tax sale. And so you could owe $200 and you could lose your house over that $200. I think that's an injustice. I think we need to reform that whole tax sale process. We need to make sure that people have every opportunity to pay those bills so that they don't lose their property to a tax sale. And I think there are a lot of ways that we can deal with that, the land bank being one of them. You know, reforming the whole tax sale process, which includes any liens like water bills and property taxes.
Speaking of reform, you were actually the only mayoral candidate that was at a recent Leaders of a Beautiful Struggle, had an education forum at Coppin State University. Education obviously is the cornerstone of any successful society. In Baltimore City, Maryland is supposed to be #1 in schools. Baltimore City, Prince George's are always number 23 and number 24, the lowest on the totem pole. We have a division between how much charter schools are getting per student, per regular schools. What would you do to focus on continuing the drive towards a better education for the city residents?
Well, I think we've got to focus on improving schools for all children, not just charter school children or regular school children. I think we've got to focus on improving it for all children. And one of the things that came out of that conference that I attended was the idea of getting more input from the students themselves. And I think that makes a lot of sense. I think, you know, when you have a system where almost half of the young people entering high school don't finish, something's wrong. The system's failing those students. I think Dr. Alonso is trying to change that. He's pushing in some directions to try to reform the whole school system by putting more money in the classroom, cutting down on administration. So I'd like to see us do more of that. But I think one of the first steps would be getting more input from the students, so that we're hearing from them what is it that's missing in the education system.
Crime, they say, is down. Homicide numbers, obviously under the O'Malley administration, who focused on that, they were always near 300. It kind of went down on the homicide numbers, but it's always 40–45% of the budget, whereas the education is 15%. Not an adequate balance. Would you change that as mayor?
I think looking at how we get to safe neighborhoods, that's what it's about. It's about reducing crime and having safe neighborhoods. There has to be a balanced approach. Enforcement is a big part of it, obviously. You have to have adequate police protection. But creating safe neighborhoods means also having activities for young people to be involved in, so they don't get involved in crime and so they don't get involved in drugs. I think it's increasing the number of treatment slots that are available. When we have an intervention or someone comes into an emergency room and they're showing a drug problem, we need to get them into treatment as quickly as possible. Otherwise, they end up back out on the street committing crimes. For young people, we need to keep them involved. Schools should be open all summer long for recreational activities. We should have counselors and college students in the various parks and areas helping to provide activities for children. It doesn't have to be in a building. It's a recreational experience. It's a structured, supervised recreational experience that we can offer kids to keep their eye focused on positive and healthy behaviors, so they're not just left abandoned to hang out on the street.
We're about to wrap it up. One final question that I would like you to tell the voters who are watching this. Why are you, Jody T. Landers, better to be and more adequately fit to be mayor of the city of Baltimore than Stephanie Rawlins Blake, and why should they vote for you on September 13th?
I have a vision for the city that I've developed over the many years that I've been involved in public office, in private nonprofit organizations, and in the business world. And I think that breadth of experience makes me better able and more prepared to lead this city. One of the things that's brought me into this race is what I see as a lack of vision. I don't see a lot of creativity here. I see us mired in doing things the way we've always done them. You know, there's a reason that the mayor's been able to raise more than $1 million, because there are a lot of people who have a stake in the status quo here, and they want to keep the status quo. I want to change the status quo. I want the city to go in a new direction, and I believe we can. And I believe that I have the ideas and can put together a leadership team, independent leadership team, to be able to make that a reality.
Jody T. Landers, candidate for mayor of Baltimore City 2011, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for your time, and thanks for the good questions.